The main reason for the shutdown, we ended up just a little above the 800 million, 850 million in cuts. And so even with that cut, if you take the state's budget as a pie chart, Health and Human Services share went from 40 to 42%. So education, all of education went from 32 to 30%. So there's a direct transfer of 2% of the budget from education to Health and Human Services. Almost all that 2% went out of the higher education. Minnesota got cut 15%, University of Minnesota cut 15%, so that we could basically, K-12. So there was, people the legislators did put their money in, where their convictions were, and especially in the context of having to, resolve an overall $5 billion shortfall. Do you take that out by cutting, or do you, raise the income tax on the wealthiest 2% of Minnesotans? I'll continue to say increasing taxes on the wealthiest 2%, and I'll point to this last session. And here's the consequences of the alternative, where you've got, the homestead credit, which they're now trying to evade responsibility for and pin on me. Totally their responsibility is.
And that's what you said, the tobacco bond borrowing. That's an example.
That's borrowing for current consumption. Exactly. And so it's just start borrowing from your children and grandchildren because you don't want to pay for what you want for now. The shift is certainly detrimental. It looks more severe on paper than it is, which is why it's kind of an attractive gimmick, but it's not the solution either. The credit ratings are downgrading our credit status in Minnesota, and part of it is because they see these as one-time and unsustainable gimmicks, and you can disagree, as people do, with my proposal to raise revenues on the top 2%, but that's a sustainable, ongoing source of revenue. So from a fiscal stability standpoint, from the credit rating agencies, that's a far more responsible approach than what has been employed by the legislature. So long-winded way of saying, I'll continue to raise the issue, but I've asked Commissioner of Revenue Myron France to convene a bipartisan group to look at our overall tax structure. There have been a lot of suggestions made in the past, and some of them were made to me by Republican legislators privately during the last 6 months, but they really were seriously sanctioned if they breathed the word in public. But Senator Gazelke spoke today about the property tax burden on businesses, so I said, well, please join our task force here. Senator Howe of Red Wing, who did actually utter a sentence of possible raising of taxes and got clobbered by his caucus the next day for doing so. That sent this chill through everybody about saying anything about any kind of possible tax increase of $1 on anybody. Well, at the same time, then going around saying, well, we cut local government aids and then property taxes go up, and that's not our fault. That's mayors and city council members, which is ludicrous. Real economic growth is the ultimate. If we go through another recession and with an aging population and greater diversity in terms of education, social service needs, and say just the healthcare side alone, growing, and even to keep that same level is going to be a huge challenge. I don't know where anybody cuts 2.5 trillion. I don't know where we cut another 5 billion. I know where we do, but it's Today they said that the college, that the president said that the tuition and fees is 60% of the cost of education now. So that means the state share, really shares 40%. Well, it shouldn't be above 40%. That's what it was historically. The fact that it went above 50 was considered to be a huge tipping point. And he said, it's true. When I was in the Senate, we have the third highest tuition for our 2-year public colleges of any state in the nation. In terms of accessibility, affordability, that's just going in a direction I think would appall most Minnesotans. It certainly should. So, the needs are going to continue to grow, and even if we raise taxes as I propose, once the taxes are fair, people say, well, where are you going to stop us? So when they're fair. But if everybody's paying their fair share, and that's the amount of money we have, I'm the first to say that's living within our means.